A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard as always exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. In hour number one at about 10:15-ish, I'll visit with the Director of Athletics at Southern University, Roman Banks. He'll join me talking Southern University athletics. And I can tell you right now, some things he may not be able to answer as far as numbers, but we'll try to be very professional and get him to give us the most information that he can. And I know right now you're going to say, well, okay, let's talk about maybe the baseball coach. Got it. Locking him in, because I'm going to tell you, it has been so much conversation about Coach Jackson and Southern University baseball. They're on the hot streak right now. But we'll talk more about that. But that is, I will relay that, excuse me, to Coach Banks, get his thoughts on that and other topics. Then in hour number two, he's the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. He'll join, and we have a variety of topics to discuss with him. And then following Dr. McClellan will be Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. We pushed him back a little bit. We'll talk Southwestern Athletic Conference baseball. But here's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. College baseball and softball teams won't get a third assistant. It was shot down. A lot of angry campers, but for HBCUs, it'll be interesting to see how they feel about the legislation not passing. I'll ask Dr. Michael Prince, get his thoughts on that. He talked a little bit about that last week. So, college baseball, softball teams won't get a third assistant. Southern and Texas Southern finally will let's play ball. Inclement weather, a lot of rain in the Baton Rouge area last couple of days. Lee Hines Field quite honestly looked like a lake. 3-4 inches of rain, but as we speak, they're working. They're scheduled to play a doubleheader. Get it in. Weather will be outstanding starting at 3 p.m. Southern and Texas Southern, they will finally get a chance to play some baseball. Then last, Southern University basketball welcomes Skylar Baggs of South Georgia State, a 6'5" forward, averaged 14 points and 11 rebounds for the Hawks this past season. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. College baseball won't get and softball, they won't get a third assistant. The NCAA Division I Council on Friday voted against a proposal that would have allowed college baseball and softball programs to pay a third assistant coach, drawing ire from those who believed it would have improved the sport. The legislation presented by the Southeastern Conference asks for the ability to pay 3 full-time assistant coaches. Under NCAA rules, college baseball and softball programs can only pay 2 assistants, forcing head coaches to make difficult decisions about the structure of their staffs. The council, which consists mostly of athletic directors, met Friday morning to vote. Around noon, the NCAA said the council had defeated the proposal to add an additional accountable assistant coach in baseball and softball. Arizona State head coach Tracy Smith wrote on Twitter, wow, just wow. The guy who brought it up to our audience attention last week, Dr. Michael Prince, I'll bring him on, get his thoughts on it. Dr. Prince, first of all, good morning to you and happy holidays.
Good morning, my brother, and happy Resurrection Weekend to you and your lovely listeners. How are you doing this morning, man? You sound a little under the weather.
Well, I was this past week, but a lot better than, say, 4 or 5 days ago. But the show must go on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got to perform.
You're a trooper, man. You're a true trooper.
I try to be, unless I get a hangnail or something. Then I revert to going back to a little tyke. But this baseball proposal, you talked a little bit about it last week within the structure of how would it affect HBCUs. But the proposal, the legislation, it won't happen. Your thoughts on that decision?
Well, it's ironic. I tweeted this morning an article that was put out by D1 Baseball, and the truth of the matter was hidden within that article, but you got to read carefully. The mirage was it was all about paying these third assistants, and that's not really the problem, because when you look at it, the Power Fives got more than enough money to pay a third assistant. That's not an issue. But when you read further on in that article, it was talking about it also, they just slide it in there, it also killed the doubling up on the scholarships, if you would, from 11.7 to 22 scholarships. That was the big hidden prize in all of this. And it would have triggered off a whole bunch of things. If you spend more money on that, it would trigger you to have to spend more money on other Title IX sports, and they shot it all down. So they're trying to make it seem like that these ADs didn't want to pay the third assistant, and that was just a part of it. I guarantee you if they were to separate and just have a bill that they just want to pay the ADs, I'm sorry, not ADs, but assistant coaches, a third assistant coach, it would pass with flying colors.
And then with softball included, then I'm thinking Title IX issues are involved as well.
Right. It's always going to be. You have to remember that everything that you do for the men, you have to do for the women as well. Okay?
Right.
And so it's already been proven that most of these institutions are not willing to invest as much as they could in collegiate baseball, which would also transfer to softball. So they're saying make do with what you have and just let it work. Now, as an HBCU, we should be turning cartwheels, jumping up and down, because the bar is remained the same. Because when it's 11.7 scholarships, as we pointed out in football, I can even this playing field now and go out there and do what I need to do to be competitive from an HBCU, quote-unquote, mid-major standpoint.
Yeah, and I pulled up the article, and it's interesting that those who were in favor of it, they're basically crying out that no one cares. But good point, as you put it, as far as what will be the effect to HBCUs and then increasing scholarships. And by the way, I'll put those points to Dr. McClellan, the commissioner, when he comes on in hour number 2, and to Coach Banks, because if you're struggling now trying to maintain what you have, and I guess to your point, the increase, that just would have been devastating.
No doubt. To
HBCUs and smaller colleges. But throughout in the article, they talk about maybe in the future bringing it back up. But I wonder what the chances are of them lobbying and for next time to have maybe a chance that it will pass the next time.
Well, what they would have to do is creatively rewrite the article or the bill to be passed to eliminate. You have to eliminate the adding of additional scholarships and the third assistant. See, those are two different issues, but they tried to combine them as one. Then they slide it in. Oh, you guys don't want to pay the third assistant. Man, you all are doing a disservice to baseball. But what they were really trying to do was monopolize collegiate baseball as it is in collegiate football and basketball, for that matter. They already can afford to give these guys a stipend of $800 to $1,000 a month. There's another big scandal that's been coming out that they were overpaying. The Power Fives were overpaying the students for their stipend, where it was more money that they were receiving than what their actual stipend would allow for. So they're always hidden treasures and creative ways to cheat the system that we're so haplessly trying to follow and abide by the rules, and we're steady getting left behind.
My best friend always puts it to me as the haves and the have-nots. The rich get richer. There's no, he says it to the point, there's no middle. You have it or you don't. And when you look at this, it's a catch-22. Yeah. So you're happy if you're an HBCU alum or administrator because you don't have to try to figure out how to squeeze, what's the old saying, the blood out of a turnip.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But there's also a warning message that we should take heed to as HBCUs. Invest now to assure your future in baseball, because they're going to come with a more creative approach to try to separate themselves. But now is the time to strike the iron while it's hot and make some leaps and bounds on being competitive from a baseball perspective. And, of course, I know I'm a baseball guy, but I look at it up and down, in and out. Baseball is by far a neutralizing sport in this D1 level.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a couple of shows ago about the best success for HBCUs would be the route of baseball. And I absolutely agree. An investment now pays off later.
Yes, sir. Which would lead back to your baseball coach at Southern. Pay the man.
Well, that was a interesting discussion. It spread it past the show last week, social media. Even our colleagues had a segment on Coach Jackson. And trust me, I'm going to put it to Coach Banks in a professional way, get his thoughts on, and I know he can't, say everything about it, but I believe he can say that, like when I asked him about Coach Odoms that time, we're going to take care of it. And because the saying goes, if you don't, somebody else will.
Amen.
And I want to just reiterate again that I've made some points about at Southern University and talking to a former board, a supervisor member, and I guess we can ask Coach Banks this if we can. But here's the thing. I've said that the days of offering, let's say if Michael Prince is going to be the baseball coach, he wants to be the baseball coach, we're negotiating. The days of offering a 5-year deal on top as far as Southern University, those days are gone. Now, that's what I talked about. Now, do I believe is that the right step to take? I would go a little deeper than a 2-year offer if I'm hiring a coach. And I understand the landscape that someone could come and say, offer him a 5-year deal. But how many programs in this conference, in your humble opinion, would offer a 5-year deal? And then let's step back. Let's say a 4-year deal. I can think maybe of 2 institutions.
And I know you're about to name PV as one of them. So,
well, if they just look at the body of their work. They're known for doing that. I would say at one point Texas Southern.
Yes, sir. Now, the only reason.
Now we're talking baseball here.
We're talking baseball. The only,
but I'm saying across the board in this conference, there's only a select few that do that.
No doubt. You're not getting an argument out of me, but I'm going to tell you this. In my opinion, the only reason you give a 4 or 5 year contract in baseball, this dude comes in proven stud of a coach, has won championships wherever they've gone. Now I wouldn't do 2. 2 to me is disrespectful. The lowest I would go is 3, and the highest I would go would be 4 or 5 with someone who's a proven commodity. That's just me.
Oh, I'm listening.
Oh no, I'm telling you.
You're done? Okay.
Yeah, I'm done, man. I'm not gonna argue with you this morning, man. We got Brother Banks coming up, and I want you to be fully strength and fully vested so you can have some clear, conscious questions for him.
Well, I've got some topics. If you care to have some to discuss that you want me to relay to Coach Banks, and that's included the commissioner, Dr. McClellan, in hour number 2.
You're giving me an invite? You
can email me, the Carlos Brown Show at gmail.com. I have Facebook Messenger open and Facebook if you want to leave a comment or a question. So with that being said, I've got 10:16 Central Standard Time. Happy holidays. That's the way I put it to all of you in your celebration tomorrow. And I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, I'm going to visit with the Director of Athletics at Southern University, Coach Roman Banks. He's still coach to me, former men's basketball coach at Southern University, now the Director of Athletics. He'll join me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Lonzo Hardy, Vice President of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded in 1999 with the goal of enhancing the great legacy of excellence in the SWAC as well as preserving the athletic heritage of the SWAC. Its membership is open to former athletes as well as current and former coaches, assistant coaches, athletic administrators, referees, employees of conference member institutions, as well as fans of swac-sports. Individuals interested in gaining membership can contact the organization's president, Roscoe Nance, at 509 Worcester Street in Herndon, Virginia, 20170. Annually, the SWAC Alumni Association holds a Legends Award in which Lifetime Achievement Awards are presented. Occasionally, a legend of the conference is honored in a roast, and annually 1 or 2 former student athletes are presented degree completion scholarship awards. Contact the organization's president, Roscoe Nance, at 509 Worcester Street in Herndon, Virginia, 20170.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. First guest of today's show is Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. Coach Banks, good morning to you, sir.
Hello, how you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
Doing well. Getting ready for this baseball game.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of rain in the Baton Rouge area. A couple of days ago, 2 days ago, all week, Lee Hines Field took on a lot of water. But with that being said, the plans are to start at 3 p.m. today with a baseball game.
Yes, sir. We hope to get 2 games in today. Probably play about 3 and 30 minutes after the first game to get 2 in today, and it look like that. Hopefully the weather still be nice tomorrow, and we get 1 in on tomorrow. So I must say that they did a good job of getting the field ready. We thought we were going to have to move the game, but obviously it was a lot of work all day and this morning to get the field ready. So we're super excited.
Well, that's a good thing because Southern baseball is just really hot right now. And Coach, speaking of baseball, first question to you. Mm-hmm. Southern baseball is basically back, most people would say. Are there any plans to lock up Coach Jackson long-term for Southern University baseball? Can you speak on that?
Well, I don't. You know how I am. I don't get off into too much of that, but he's our coach. I brought him here not to lose him in a year or two. I thought that, this program, and we're off and running, and I think he's ahead of schedule. So we felt, and I felt very comfortable when we hired him that he'll be the man for the long haul, and that hasn't changed. And so, as years to come, we plan on him being here. I mean, obviously, you hire coaches and they have success, and some people try to, try to recruit them or move on. But we're gonna do everything in our power to stay committed to him because I think he's been committed to Southern University, and so we're excited about our baseball program. We're excited about him, and I'm not just talking about that. I think some people, because we are off and running this year. And we're in the top of the league. But I just think even if we are second or third, that he's the right guy for the program academically, in the community, and teaching the kids how to get better.
Yeah, because if someone came, and I understand what you're saying, if someone came up to you, Coach, and said, Coach Banks, will Coach Jackson be here 5 years from now? You would answer. How would you answer that?
I'll say, with the success he's having, I would, I'm a realist. And if someone came up to him, a Sunbelt Conference, and they'd offer him $300,000, I'll probably be telling that, man, that's, we can't do that. And so we need to understand what's reality and what's not reality. I think sometimes in this business we get caught up in just because of instead of reality. And so, but we're going to do everything in our power to. And I think that we have shown ourselves well, under my tenure, trying to make sure our coaches are right there as one of the top 2 or 3 paid in our league. Obviously, Southern went through more than anybody else have been through as it relates to financial, as it relates to students, decreasing over the years under general administration, as it relates to them taking away state funding. So, Southern, we have to redefine ourselves, and we're slowly doing that. But in redefining ourselves, I've been able to, along with the president, keep our coaches primarily at the top of where they need to be. And as they win, we're able to do more.
Visiting with Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. Southern University graciously agreed to come on today's show to talk with us about Southern University athletics, and we started right off the bat with Coach Jackson and Southern University baseball, and I've got comments and questions pouring in as we speak, Coach Banks. So once again, I appreciate you coming on and trying to answer as much as you can. With that being said, several people wanted to know facilities upgrade. Could you update that as far as Southern University athletic facilities upgrade?
So as you look, we're getting work done in Mofford Stadium. We're working in FG Clark Activity Center, the Mini Dome. Right now we're over in, maybe softball is being reworked. As you see Jaguar Park, we still adding a track phase to Jaguar Park. And so as you see, under the last 12 months or so, that there's been a lot of work being done. And it's going to continue to be a lot of work being done. I mean, it hasn't been a lot of upgrades in our facilities over 10 or 15 years. And so that's not going to happen overnight. And we're going to have to keep finding funding ways to try to better ourselves to get these facilities, in my opinion, to the best in our league and probably the best in our state. And so I think as you look around and you drive around the campus on the athletic side, you see a lot of work being done. And we're thankful, to Dr. Belton, who the president, who understands what needs to happen on the athletic side and helping pushing for funding. And so I'm thankful for that. And our coaches are thankful for all the alumni that's pouring in and investing to us to help get things done. I mean, I like to, we got a lot of work to do on baseball. We got to get a volleyball locker room done. I mean, we're still trying to get some Title IX things that I have to get done in the Center Creek for as we're on this probationary period. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think that all fans are happy to see the work that's being done right now, but we got some other business we need to take care of.
Listen with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University, and you just talked about updating the facilities. One question is, from a listener, how can fans donate money to specific programs?
Okay, so, there are a lot of, we have a lot of fundraising mechanisms. And so, we have this overtime series that, as you look at it, that series was created to pour in funds that we're working to create money for these facilities. Then you also have the S Club and the Jags Unlimited Club that people can get into, where those money goes directly. If you're the S Club or membership for past student athletes, they join the club, they get different benefits of whatever level they join, and that money goes directly to the program and to the general fund for facilities. The S Club are members that just support athletics. Anyone can join that club, and it's the same type of program set up. You get different levels of free parking and different things that go with that. That's on our Go Jazz Sports website. And so then you got direct giving that you can just donate to the athletic department, and we can initially for facilities. So there are a lot of different ways of giving that we are reaching out to. I tell you, one of the most important ways is buying season tickets. I can't emphasize that enough. If we buy season tickets, we only charge for football, basketball, and baseball right now. We're working to get our facilities where we can charge for other sports. But if you buy season tickets to all of those and we can get that number up, then that directly benefits recruiting, that benefits student athletes, and that helps us with facilities. Over the past couple of years, we're back up to probably right at 5,000, and we'd like to get that number to 7,500 season ticket holders.
Boy, you can remember in the heyday, 10,000 was
so you
number.
Remember in the heyday at 10,000 around Coach Richardson last year. We go back and did a study. It started decreasing, and even some of the better times, it got all the way down to it was right a little over 3,000. So here in the past, each year, the last 2 years, we have trended back up, and so we hope to trend this year. But we need to. I think Coach Odom is doing a great job. All our coaches are doing a great job, and you just got to think about it. Even while we are winning, we haven't just really put 24,000 people in there. And we do a lot of building up a lot of ancillary events around the games. And so we're going to need some commitments, from our fans and from people that really want to see us move our facilities in different directions, that really want us to help us keep these coaches around, because that's where that money going to come from.
Mm-hmm. Coach Banks, why do you think, in spite of success that you guys have had, that the numbers are still not where you think they should be? Do you have an idea?
Let me say this, is that we have proven over the last 2 years we have grown. And so I want to be encouraged by the growth. Before I took over, the numbers were very low. So here in the last couple of seasons, our numbers have continued to grow. I think if I go back and do the research, somewhere between P. Richardson tenure and the next coach, that's when things started to decline, and when this state got pretty tough financially in the university, things started to decline, and we haven't built that back up to that point. Now, I do want to say, and I'm sincere about this, is that I like the way we're trending. Mm-hmm. And another thing is that you also got to remember that, Southern had over 10,000 students. Now we're right about 6,000 students. And so when you start factoring in 10,000 students versus 6,000 students, and you start talking about what those dollars mean to the university and what those dollars mean to athletics, you start seeing the difference. And you have more people at that point, just on students alone, supporting the university. And so there are a lot of other factors that has to go with, I think, us building our game day back up. And I think one of the things that I have tried to do is be transparent. And I think that has helped us to grow. Whether somebody disagree or agree, they understand the rationale, and I haven't heard anything from our fans or our supporters about what direction we're going in or the reason why we're doing different things. And I think people get confidence in you when they see transparency and they see you trying to do the right things. And so we've gone on this big public service type, is that, we want to treat our fans a certain way. And so I think that has helped us to trend. And I think that those factors that I said about students and what this state went through, we haven't gained that back. But hopefully, just even the swag in our athletic department over the last couple of years are coming back, and I see that in ticket sales. So I'm hopeful that everybody that hear my voice, we start selling tickets May 13th, that we can go ahead and buy season tickets and show ourselves. The reason why they call us Jaguar Nation, if you buy season tickets, you also get baseball and basketball for half price if you buy those tickets when you buy the football season book. So we got a lot of things that's going on. And I think one thing is I talked to a lot of people, and they talk about tickets went up at some point. And I did my research on that. Tickets went up when they added the field house, and you have to pay for the field house. So basically, that was on the back of the tickets, and which are basically all fans. But still, when I look at that, and I look at Jackson State ticket prices and other ticket prices, we're not the highest ticket prices in our league oftentimes, especially when people go up when we play them and they call our game a special event. And so I do want to make sure that we understand that. And another thing is that I've been able to, because we're with the state, it's not too much you can do on game day, but we've been able to, and got it approved by the state and the state auditors, is that if you buy season tickets, then your season tickets are back on those kind of prices in those old days. They are $5 and $7 cheaper by game if you buy them on season tickets. There's not much I can do right now as it relates to game day tickets. But if you buy a season book and you look at the prices where we offer them at, then they are back $5 and $7 cheaper. And that's back in those days where people were liking the ticket prices.
We're visiting with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. You mentioned, and I'm going to get you to repeat it again, you mentioned about an incentive if you get season books for football. You get half price on what other sports? Tickets?
Basketball and baseball.
Okay, and why I ask you to repeat that, because I have a listener that wanted to ask some type of points incentive program for season book holders. We'll include that with what you just said. Correct?
Yeah, so I think he's talking about, and we're looking at some type of season book holders, how many tickets you have, award system. But we looked at that, and we brought some people in to help us assess ourselves. And the worst thing you can do is do something you're not ready to be able to handle. And so what we're doing is incentive-based tickets. And I think for our season ticket holders, we're mailing things out. Like if you have so many tickets, we letting you get another ticket for $50 added to your book, or 2 tickets. And so I would tell everybody to stay tuned to to the mail or the email. We do realize that most of our season ticket holders, we have to communicate with them through mail. All of them don't have email addresses, and we're making calls out from the ticket office trying to update that and get all the information. So that tells me one thing right there. Most of our season ticket holders are older, and we need to start getting these young professionals. And I think that's part of our problem, is that it's so much going on this day and time that we don't have the commitment from the younger base, like our older people used to be committed when they were younger. And so we're trying to find ways to make that transition to where our younger base start investing to the university as a whole, like they once did. And because they are actually getting seasoned and they're older now, and that's been a huge problem. And that's the reason why you see a lot of things that I'm doing, a lot of engagement we have. We try to combine the young with the old and have different mixes so we can bring them together, and people can understand the reason why, or the younger folks can understand the reason why you need to support your university.
Coach, let me ask this: somebody that's 54, is that old or middle aged?
That ain't old, man.
The reason why, because I'm 54. I was just thinking.
They say 50 is the new 30, so that ain't old now. So.
No, I have to remember that one.
So our season ticket holders, somewhere between that young professional when they get out, we are really behind when you start talking about somewhere between you get out of college, graduate somewhere between the 27, 28, all the way up to right at 45, 50. We're behind in that area, to be honest with you. When we go through our records, it's not too many people season ticket holders in that age group. They're actually 50 and older. And to be honest with you, our strongest era of folks is probably between 55 and 70. So we need to find ways, and I'm trying to find motivated ways to communicate with the younger base as well, so we can make sure that we're getting that support.
Yeah, a good mixture,
right,
is a good thing. Taking some time to visit with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. Coach, a lot of what I get as far as emails and things from social media, football schedule. A couple of listeners want to know about future Southern University's football schedule, although we know we just got the 2019 schedule in place with 12 games. Where does Coach Banks see the schedule? And I guess I specifically want to say not the conference schedule, but we'll get to that, but the non-conference schedule going forward. Do you still have the same perspective on money games and FCS games? Talk about that.
Yeah, that's all in the budgeting formula. And so that doesn't change. So when we sit at the table and we have to meet our scholarship needs and all that, those don't change. What I would like to see is that I don't necessarily say that we have to play SEC games and Power 5 and other schools. I would really like to do more classics. But as you know, this day of time, the classic payouts aren't like they used to be. And so with that being said, if we have a chance to play someone, a TCU, and we only can get the money for one game, and therefore we can play somebody at our level, I'd much rather do that if we can't play the classic games. And so it's a balance of formula of what we have to look for. If we can't get the one big game, and sometimes we might have to play two mid-conference teams to get the level of money that we're looking for, and then that make us lose a game. And so it's just different ways of how we are trying to formulate each year it depends on the opponent and the needs and where we are. And so now, if we was filling the stadium up every day, every home game, that softens the blow a little bit. That's why season tickets are very important. Then you don't have to worry about getting as much finances probably pre-game guarantee that you would need to make your budget. And so there's a different formula that goes with that. But, I always said that I like to bring old rivalry games back. But when we bring fans back here, if we don't fill the stadium, then it's not doing anything as it relates to the mindset of what I would like to see, so we won't have to play money games. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if that game is not a packed game, or if we can't play Tennessee State in Atlanta at a classic, and they give us game guarantee for going to play there, that makes sense, then we have to find a money game. And so there's a lot of different formats, that scenarios rather that we have to face when it comes to scheduling. But I always said that I like to bring rivalry games back, or play just one money game that we can make sure that we are budgeting in the right way.
So, Coach, are you getting contacted by, for instance, schools like South Alabama, Georgia State? I'm just using those as a reference. And do you see the time where those big money games, like with Power 5 teams, do you see that going away?
So as it relates to the conferences and our NCAA meetings, there's no question that it can go away. So if you have an opportunity to schedule one and you can get 800,000, you might want to do that, because the reason why the Power Conference came into existence is for scheduling purposes, and basically they would play the next 5, and the next 5 could get $1 million versus we play someone, we get 500,000, and which one makes sense to play them. So so that possibly can go away. Right now, you still have some space in there with different schools. Us and LSU are talking, about playing some power conferences, and every once in a while, a power conference may reach around. Power 5 school may reach down and play you. But, the South Alabamas and the Southern Miss and the Lafayette and the Louisiana Tech are beginning to take over that space as it relates to game guarantees. And I'm still I just believe that when we travel, when we play a team the way we travel, I really don't care what school it is, South Alabama, Louisiana Tech, or whatever. We command a different price tag than anybody else in our league because we are shown the numbers that we bring. And so a lot of times they say I'm a hard dealer, but a lot of times I'm not going to settle because I know the type of revenue that they make off us.
Now, it would just be good if you can get, and I understand your point, to get home attendance back up. Where so if we can get home attendance, in which let's not act like that just happened. That's been happening a long time ago before me, and we're growing. That's why I'm very optimistic, and I see us trending up. If we can get home attendance back up, and I said that last year, we can get us back coming into not just tailgating, coming in the stadium, buying season tickets. That takes all the pressure off us as it relates to having to play these money games. And then, that changed the dynamic. But we're not doing that right now. We're not ready for that. But I'm hopeful here in the next, starting this season, once again, we trend up where we can start getting past that. Go ahead, Coach.
Let me tell you another problem. And Southern supports Southern. And so let me tell you what I mean about that as doing a study on our ticket. So we go to Jackson State, we're going to bring 15, 20,000 people, just like everywhere else we go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jackson State came to us. They didn't even sell tickets on their campus. And so no one is supporting Southern. They are not bringing a crowd. They are not bringing 5,000 and 10,000 people. And I think that's part of our problem. So we need our fans to engage our home games more than ever because people are not coming to us. These other schools in the conference not even bringing 3,500 people. And so if we don't do it for Southern, nobody else doing it now. they are benefiting from Southern because everywhere we go, we bring a certain number of people. And that's what I'm trying to get our fans to understand. Now, I like for us to travel because, we're unique and we special, but still at the same time, we got to find a way to start taking care of our home court because we're not getting any help.
Interesting point. And to that, Coach Banks, a listener wants to know from Dallas, have there been discussions with the SWAC to have more balance in scheduling? They seem to have a school traveling for a month and at home for a month.
I think it's going to get better. I think, with the new commissioner, I think he does a good job. And he's working, communicating with us and asking for new ideas and better in ways that we can be better. And we're working on this scheduling format. One thing about this conference, and he realized each year it's a change. It's a bylaw change. We're going to play. We're playing the championship game on campus. This year we're playing it in Texas. We're moving this game here. We're moving it there. It's got to be some stability, and I think he understands that. And I think once we have the stability, what's going to take place east and west, are we going to play 8 or we're going to play 9? We got to that's got to go away. We got to come up with something consistent, and when you come up with something consistent, then we can start building around that. And I think that our new commissioner is doing that.
Visiting with Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. Coach, they are pouring in. Michael Prince has a couple of questions. So what I'm going to do, Dr. Prince, you have the floor to ask that question. That'll give me a chance to look at some more that are pouring in.
All right. Coach, thank you again for allowing me to ask my little old question. Thank you, Brother Carlos. Coach, first of all, my question, and I'm an old baseball player, and a lot of people kind of miss under the radar about the NCAA Power Fives rejecting this third paid assistant, which is really a hidden underscore for 22 scholarships, which would separate us immensely from our level. My question is, do you feel that we could do a little bit more to compete on the baseball side of things when it comes to our Division I foes in the FBS? Because that is one of the true sports that we could really make an impact on a regular basis.
That's a great question. I think you led me right into it. I think that when you start to look at size and structure, and is different than football. You have to have the big linemen, and they usually go high major. But and then when you start looking at baseball and basketball, I think those are the two sports. And so we're talking about baseball. I think baseball is a sport that you can get pretty much on a little more equal grounds. And I think that showing right now, what we've been able to do, I think that you can compete, with a higher conference pretty much, pretty consistently, being that you have everything in place. And it's a lot of talk about the other assistant and another assistant that I think got rejected. And so I just think that if the university can put things in place, so let's talk about scholarships, let's talk about the scholarship structures, let's talk about the housing, let's talk about travel. If you can put all those things in place at the university level, I think that individual schools can compete even better. I'll give you a case in point is that I just think if we ever can get to the cost of attendance as it relates to our athletic department, and you did that for basketball and baseball. So when a kid go to Lafayette, he getting a cost of attendance check, and he come visit Southern, and we not getting him anything, then you probably gonna lose that kid. But if we're able to offer the same type of cost of attendance, they might offer $1,000, we might offer $800. Then I think that levels the playing field some. So even though it's done through the NCAA as holistically corporate level, I think it's some things that we can work toward. And once again, it's on finances. we can do some things at the university level that can equal the playing field as well. Because I do think that baseball is a sport that we can be consistent at as it relates to competing.
Yes, sir. And this is also another baseball-related question. I know there's been some challenges with the conference as a whole on championship games, this, that, and the other. And I propose this, and I'm going to ask the commissioner if Carlos allows me to in the next hour. But I want to get your insights on, just as we do in football, instead of having this 8-team tournament double elimination, because it's really not a double elimination baseball tournament with the way the television contract is structured. Because if you come from the losers bracket, you already have a loss, and you make it to the championship round, then you can beat the guy who made it undefeated on winner take all, and that's not a true double elimination.
On one game.
Right.
Right.
My question is, you either A, make it a single game elimination tournament, or you can rectify all of this and have the East versus the West champion, and if it's for television purposes, have a winner take all game, or you can get the top 3 from each one and have a double elimination that way, and your championship game will be single elimination. And to answer and counter the player experience, well, the player experience would be you have a banquet, baseball banquet on that Thursday, give away your awards, this, that, and the other, and they can be there as an invite to watch these 2 top teams play and hope they go back and be motivated to get better. And another thing to kind of offset the expense, your top 2 teams could end up hosting the championship game, whoever has the better record. And that way you don't have to be out of expenses, because they're saying New Orleans is too expensive for the baseball travel. Just some thoughts that I've been kicking around.
I think those are great thoughts. So obviously you've probably been, have you been peeping in on our meetings, listening in or something? Because
no, sir.
We got connections, baby.
Coach Jackson and I made a recommendation to the SWAC office. He's been around a little bit, and we've been talking about that. So we made a recommendation similar to that, and it has all the components that you spoke about. So obviously, out the record, I like to speak with you about that, because we just sent that off to him last week. And it's kind of in the same premises that you're talking about. It's cost saving. It's about getting a true champion. It's about equality in winner taking all. And that we thought that was kind of, you can lose and come back and win it all in one game. So we sent a proposal, and it's about playing some games on campus. And obviously that's going to be for the commissioner. But I do think that we can be much better with the scenario you talked about, with the scenario we presented, and maybe someone else has some ideas and it come one piece of legislation. I do think that we can be better off.
Yes, sir. And I got
one more. Be interesting.
I got one more, Brother Carlos, and I'm done. And mine's are baseball related. I let y'all do it, and I appreciate you being straightforward and candid with us, Coach. The midweek games, and there's always talked about the East playing the West in baseball. And just like we go and play these midweek games, and some of those games are money games, and a lot of them are not. How about if you play East versus West opponent on a Tuesday or Wednesday? You can play a single game, and that game goes toward the overall standing from the Eastern and the Western division, and that way it kind of summarizes that true champion, as we just made mention to.
Yeah, I like that, and I like that. I just think that, and with your thought process and what we have on paper, and I think Alabama State maybe turn some in, and Jackson, I think you get that body of work. I think it's all on the same page, and I think that we can agree to come up with obviously that's going to be on the commissioner, but I just think, just listening to you, a lot of things make sense, and that's what we've been talking about. And I think that you will see a change in structure. I think we've been doing things because it's been a habit of nature, because we've been doing it. Nobody really reached in and redefined ourselves as the way the working society working today. A lot of our scheduled practices has been the same for 20 years, and that has to change. So I just think that's what you're speaking about, and I think that we really have a commissioner that's addressing all these concerns. And I do think that we're going to be stronger going forward. I think as a conference, and I think Southern University ourselves with the changes that we're trying to make sure as an institution that we're getting better. I think that that we can win on both ends, conference-wise and institution.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coach. And I'll turn it back over to Brother Brown.
Great. I'd like to get with you on those thoughts, though.
Oh, I will. I'll shoot you a text at the end of the show.
Okay, thank you.
That is interesting. Sometimes tradition, and then listen to you guys, tradition, you've been doing things 20-plus years.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how all this plays out. We have the commissioner coming up next in about 10 minutes, actually. In hour number 2. I'm sure that conversation will continue. Visiting with Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. I had a listener wanted to ask you this. Has the AD polled fans to determine why they would travel to Jackson and not Mumford? Was it traffic, parking, etc.?
So I have not did a survey where we have what we call a committee of folks that I try to get it and talk to on campus and ask different things, and I pull different people in to get their perspective. So because we want to be better, and I probably done talked to over this football season over just a random people, pulling them in for over 50 people to try to make sure I know what people are thinking. And so when you start talking about traffic, if you travel to football games, it's going to be some traffic. You've been to LSU, if you've been to Jackson, it's going to be some traffic. And so I often talk about it's never going to be, or you got a problem where you can drive up an hour for the game or 2 hours for the game, and you can just go straight to where you want to go to, especially on big games. And that's a good thing, because when you start having that problem, that means nobody attending. And also with how our campus is structured, we don't have open roads to get to our campus. We're kind of isolated, 3 ways on, 3 ways off. It's kind of, like they always say, in emergency, we're in a bad spot up at Southern. If you go to if you come up there during a graduation, when they have these high school graduations, it's terrible. And so that's a problem that we have to work through because of where our campus is located. And so, when you start talking about traffic, I'm really not just buying into that, because of the fact is that we know any event such as big events that you have to get down there, get in there early and get yourself taken care of. Now, we're doing everything we can. We're putting out water parks, we color coding everything this year. So we're doing a lot of things to try to make sure that our fans are comfortable. But the dynamics of game day and of our campus is a little different. But I go to all these other games. I walk around, I look around, and our problem is that it's not no different from any other school. And Coach, yes.
And going to Jackson, it's a pleasure to go to Jackson and come away with a victory and harass the JSU fans. Now, that's personally, I'll put that in the opinion. Continue on, Coach Banks.
So, but no, when we go now, we come back with the W. So I think we're talking about logistics right now, and I just wanted to, walk around and look, not just there, other places, and take the best practices. So I had to say that we're doing everything in our power to the caller to make sure that we're making our fans as comfortable as possible, and just to realize that the dynamic that we're dealing with as it relates to travel on our campus. But you go a lot of other places, you'll see the same thing. So I often say, get there early. We open the stadium up early. We're doing a lot of things to make sure that our fans can enjoy their experience. But I'm always willing to talk and see what we can do to make things better.
Well, the questions and comments are still pouring in, and we're basically done with our number one. I had one listener want to know, Coach, if there were any athletic teams still facing any probationary period as far as APR.
So let's, and a lot of people don't understand that. So we don't have any APR sanction as it relates to us not going to postseason play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all teams, and I stated that all teams are eligible for postseason play. You always have some penalties as it relates to, and we basically got away from practice litigations and stuff like that. So we'll move forward past that as well. But let's be mindful that the university, we're under probation. The university is still under probation till 21. And so what they're saying is that we got to keep our best practice. The university have a role to play. We got to make sure that we'll continue to add some things what we call corrective actions, maybe hire another athletic counselor in the next year. It's some things that we have to do with some Title IX stuff. That's why we really on the softball situation, finding money to get that done. There are some things in that body of work that we have to do. So when they come back in and review us in the next year, that they don't put us back on in the probationary period. So all the teams are eligible, but we are still, as a university as a whole, under probation statute.
Wow, they're still pouring in. But I got to ask this one. I appreciate your time, Coach. There's a listener wanted to know, does Southern have any HBCU Classic or potential good home games lined up in the future, like the Pete Richardson Classic? Give us something, Coach, that we can think about going forward.
Well, we got, so you're talking about Classic and games, like I made such, you got Pete Richardson Classic. We still, we got FAM coming to us, not this season, the next season. And we're working to try to, I don't know if I really want to say it, but we're working to possibly play in Detroit a Classic against Tennessee State. We're working on that possibly for next season as well. So just like I said, I would like to see those Classic games. I like to see those rivalry games, and you can see by our scheduling practice and the conversation I just said that that's my focus. And but it has to make sense. We're probably going to be we're talking with someone else probably in the next 2 years to play A&T in Atlanta. So there's a lot of things that we're working on.
Wait a minute, A&T like North Carolina A&T?
There you go.
So, I admire that football I admire their athletic program.
And I would love to play them.
Coach, I'd like to play them in Atlanta this year. But anyway, I talked to Coach Owens about that one.
You can see where I'm going as it relates to putting our program up against the HBCUs and trying to say that we want best HBCUs around.
Well, on that note, as usual, it has been interesting. We still had some more, perhaps, points to go over, but time will not allow. But we'll save it for the next time. But as usual, it's always been interesting, and especially that last minute. That should pique the Southern fans and alums' interest quite well.
Yeah.
On that.
Well, that's what I made that pledge, and we're going to try to do these type of things, play these Classic games, and hopefully what's important is our attendance and season books. I hope I just want everybody that's listening to understand what we're up against. And even if you're from out of town, and we have the share back program now where you can purchase tickets and you can give them back to the AD, and we give them back to some kids or whatever the case may be, needy kids. We're doing all those things that's coming online. So we don't have any excuses as it relates to getting our numbers up for season books. And when you buy the season books, get basketball and baseball as well, and come out at 3:00 and support the baseball team.
Well, Coach, in my humble opinion, if you continue to be transparent, continue to talk to the people that you need to talk to, whether if they agree with you or not, to me, that's the ultimate good thing, because it shows that, hey, I'm willing to talk, not just when things are good, but when things are not good. If you keep that up, you'll be all right.
Well, that's like I always say, we stronger together. I don't think I have all the answers, and my dad always taught me to listen, and I'm willing to listen to anyone, you know, as it relates to ideals. And I read all emails, and I bring them to our table because it challenges us to be better at the end of the day.
On that note, appreciate it. Happy holidays to you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and let's talk again real soon.
My pleasure. I look forward to coming back on. I enjoy it.
All right. Appreciate it. I enjoyed it as well. Coach Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University. About 45 minutes. Appreciate the time. I'm going to take a quick time out, hydrate the voice a little bit. When I come back, I'm scheduled to join the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. How does this sound? Future of the SWAC football championship game. High seed will host on neutral site. 8 conference games. You get my drift. That's where I'm going. Talking next with Dr. McClellan. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Network at Spreaker.com.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you know, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
How you doing? This is Mike Prince, the radio guy. I want to thank you so much for joining us on our daily content and programming, and serve as a reminder that you can listen to the Carlos Brown Show live here on the network 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time each and every Saturday. Carlos Brown is a seasoned, legendary sports talk show host based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But we're not going to hold that against him. Join the Carlos Brown Show live on the Open Mic Broadcast Network, 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Thank you there, Dr. Prince. I'm humbled and took that little shot there at the end there.
Hey, man, that's what brotherhood's all about, right?
I hear you. Let me get to my next guest. No stranger to the Carlos Brown Show, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. Dr. McClellan, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How's everything going, sir?
I'm doing fine here in Baton Rouge. How about yourself, sir?
No complaints. No complaints about it.
Well, it wouldn't help anyway if you complain. You're among the living, and you have a lot of work to do, Dr. McClellan, as being commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So I'm sure you're still up to the challenge, sir.
I hope so.
Oh, come on.
I guess
so
the proof
you know you're going to be all right.
Yeah, well, no, I'm extremely optimistic as to where the conference offers this position at this point. It's been, a pretty good year for us. We learned a lot, and we have a lot in store. So I'm very, very optimistic.
Charles, has it been pretty much the way you thought it would be? Pros and cons. Well, I shouldn't say pros and cons, but has it been what you thought it would be so far?
Well, from a personal standpoint, it's been much better transition than what I anticipated.
Okay.
Going from athletics director / vice president to commissioner, I think being on campus, understanding, what goes on campus in the various programs has assisted me, especially in my learning curve, and even in the decision-making process. It's one thing to make a decision when you're just kind of on top and never experienced what the student athletes or the administrators or people on campus are experiencing. It's another to make that decision knowing the immediate impact that it could make, both negatively or positively.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps guide, the process. One of the things that we did almost instantaneously was to eliminate fines for student athletes that might get ejected from a game. We look at it on an individual basis, but an automatic ejection doesn't concur with us as an automatic fine. To kind of take that step forward, had opportunity to talk to the baseball coordinator of officials and a lot of the officials and say, hey, we want to bring some, level of excitement back to the baseball. As a kid and even as an adult, when I went to baseball games, the coach always would run out the dugout, have a little say to the umpire. Sometimes it's part of strategy. You put the coach out to get your team fired up. With the SWAC, we were fining the coaches $1,000. So we look at that kind of stuff on an individual basis. Just a small example of how we have looked at all aspects of what goes on within the conference and try to make some of those adjustments so we can kind of help bring some of the excitement back to all of our 18 sports.
Well, speaking of excitement, a lot of feedback, a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm just going to relate some of these points to you, Charles, if you don't mind. The future of the Southwestern Athletic Conference Football Championship. The higher seed will host next year, or will it be at a neutral site? What's the status of the SWAC Football Championship?
Still evaluating. We're going to have a proposal ready for the Council of Presidents in our June meeting. A final decision will be made then. We know that we can host it on campus. We know what that value is. There are some entities that wanted to explore bringing the football championship to their city. We set what that minimum threshold would be. I can tell you we're no longer going to pay to go to cities and play any of our championships. If nothing else, moving that championship game on campus allowed us to identify what our value was. Mm-hmm. We know that we have a solid quality product, and as we strengthen and grow our conference, it's going to be about revenue generated so we can get it back to the school. So part of my charge from the council and part of my duty as commissioner was to go out and try to get the best deal for the conference. So we're in the final stages of evaluating that, but I can tell you unequivocally, we're going to do what's best for the Southwestern Athletic Conference, not only from a fan's perspective, but from a monetary perspective to help our conference grow. So at the end of the day, If there's nothing that's out there that meets to our satisfaction, then we know that we can play those games on the home campus. So we're working both scenarios. We have both in play. So when the final decision is made in our June meetings from the Council of Presidents, we'll be able to hit the ground running and we'll be able to put on a quality championship.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Charles, I'm sure you often get feedback. I wouldn't say 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but are you getting kind of feedback that you considering from other individuals, coaches, ADs, etc.?
Oh, we get feedback from presidents, coaches, fans, student athletes. We're going to be an open, all-inclusive conference.
Mm-hmm.
I get several calls. I get several emails. And I realize no decision that the conference makes is going to get 100% satisfaction because there are 10 different institutions with 10 different missions with 10 different goals. But at the end of the day, my charge is to strengthen the conference.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes back to financial. So we're going to do what it takes. But without question, this is not a top-down administration. It's going to be a collaborative process. I've gone to at least 6 of the 10 institutions and have talked to the alumni bases, given them the strategic plan, and asked them for their input as to how they want to see their conference operating. So nothing that we will do will be in a vacuum. Everything that we do is going to have some buy-in and some input from us.
We're visiting with Dr. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Kind of lost him a bit there for a second. Charles, can you still hear me?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
All right, there we go. Just discussing about evaluating the SWAC, on the future of the SWAC football championship. Another topic that we've talked about and we get questions about a lot is the SWAC football conference games, the mandate, the schedule. Will it be 8 games? Will it be 7? Will it be 9? We all been talking about. We believe it's going to be 8. Are you prepared to talk about that right now, where that's going to end up as far as SWAC football conference games?
Well, nothing has been finalized, but I can tell you the 8-game schedule is the schedule that we've been working on.
Okay.
And we've been working on a 10-year scheduling format. So we've been able to work with an entity and all of the schools to schedule our games out until 2029. So we're going to be able to finalize our football schedule from 2019 to 2029. There are a couple of things that we're going to have to do. And the reason why I, as the commissioner, have been pushing the 8-game schedule is a couple of things. One, after going through this year, it's 100% clear to me that a championship game has to occur. From a sponsorship standpoint, from a branding standpoint, it's critically important. When we took the championship game away, we lost about 80% of our sponsorship participation. When we brought it back, we got about 30% of it back. But it was evidently clear that that championship game garnered a lot of interest from the corporate side as well as the television side. So in order for us to be able to have a quality championship game, then there were some things that we had to do to help strengthen our overall program. You have to be very careful from a conference standpoint. You can't be over-intrusive, but at the same time, you have to lead the conference forward. We have to improve all of our sports. We no longer want to be, the last or second or last when it comes to ranking in football and basketball. So one of the things that we're looking at and we want to accomplish is we want to send our best team to the Celebration Bowl, but we also want to get some teams in the football championship. You have to have a minimum of 7 Division I games won in order to consider. So with the 7-game mandate, you had schools saying, I want to be able to go out, I want to be able to play my game guarantees, and I want to be able to get a couple of game guarantees in. Those that were pushing the 9 game were saying, well, we're in a conference for a reason. We want to play our conference school. We don't necessarily want to play all those game guarantees. Well, the 8 game gives you that happy median, but it also does something else. It gives you 8 Division I games. So let's say you only lose one, and you could still achieve 1 play game guarantee or 2, or bringing in a game guarantee or 2, and still have that minimum threshold, qualify yourself to be able to go to the championship. So now that I've been in a commissioner, I've been able to get in, I've been able to look at the formula. So instead of us trying to dictate to schools, well, you can't play College of Faith anymore, or can only play one FBS opponent, we can kind of manage it by the 8-game schedule. So I know that a lot of debate has gone on about allowing us to play game guarantees or bringing game guarantees in, but not a lot of have been focused and researched on the ability to upgrade our conference. We've looked at a lot of models, and again, we don't want to be that intrusive, but the 8-game format allows us to be able to achieve both sides of the coin. It's a happy median between the 9-game and the 7-game, and it also is that first initial step in helping us to raise the overall profile of our football conference, which is something that we must do.
Now, that makes sense to me, but it's just my humble opinion. I thought maybe you guys were leaning toward 8 conference games, so we'll continue to monitor that situation.
Yeah, and again, you probably will want to talk to me after the June meeting. All of this, again, keep in mind, I started in September, and football season had already started.
Right.
So in the legislative process, we'll meet in December and we'll meet in June. So a lot of this has been ongoing throughout the course of the year. And we're going to have a pretty full slate in June with a lot of major decisions that'll be made. But the one thing that I can tell you is the decisions that we make, we're going to do it with longevity in mind. We're not going to keep bouncing back. We're not going to keep changing things. We're going to do the research, get the input, make the proper decision, and we're going to move on. And again, we think, based upon the models that we've researched, that this is the route to go that will help to strengthen our conference.
Visiting with the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. Boy, Charles, I tell you, the comments and the questions are coming in. Maybe I should have tied you down for a 2-hour show, but I won't do that to you.
Please, thank you.
But we appreciate your time that you're giving us. Well, with that being said, let me move on, and I'll try to get a couple of questions from listeners. The recent SWAC basketball tournament in Birmingham. Charles, your thoughts on and feedback of what took place in Birmingham, the SWAC basketball tournament championship?
Yeah, well, honestly, it went better than what I anticipated. The deal that was made for Birmingham for basketball and football was made prior to me getting there. But the one thing that I have to say is that Birmingham has been overwhelming. I go back to, we're no longer going to pay to host our championships in these cities. We came in and we did an economic development study. And for the city of Birmingham, for us to bring in the basketball tournament, the track championship, was about a $2 million impact to the local economy. So we've been able to take that and we've been able to go out to various cities. So we have proposals out. Birmingham is in the mix. And there are other cities that are in the mix. But right now we're in the positive position where cities are actually offering us money to bring our basketball tournament to their cities. And that's ultimately the way that it's supposed to be. And again, we know what our value is. We know what our worth is. So Birmingham rolled out the red carpet for us. We had a pretty good basketball tournament. We had a lot of feedback from the fans and the administrators and the teams. And it was overwhelmingly positive. We did things like, we talked about we wanted to be like the NCAA. So when the majority of the teams checked into their rooms, they had tournament gifts there. Some came sooner than what we thought, so they went to practice, came back, they had gifts in the room. We gave gifts to the coaches. We've reinstated the awards. We call it a banquet, but it's an awards reception where we get all of the teams together and let them know
who won Player of the Year, give them their award. Then we had hospitality at the game, and SWAC functions attached to the basketball game. We had a career fair where all 10 member institutions came in, and we just got the numbers back. All 10 schools awarded a combined $500,000 to the city of Birmingham schools. It was $500,000 to the city of Birmingham in scholarships. Over 300 students were admitted to the institutions, and that's what this is all about. So we're putting these various packages and programs together, and we're going to have an all-inclusive, cohesive basketball tournament. And again, we know what our value is. We know what our work. So we should have that decision coming as well in the June meeting as to which city we're going to go to. But again, all of the listeners should know that this is a revenue-generating product for us. And we're going to put the money back into the schools. So they're going to have to step up, and they're going to have to step up big time if they want the SWAC. Again, that football championship changed the entire scope of how we think and how we do business. We know at the end of the day, we have the product and we have the facilities. So if you don't want to give us the money, we'll just take our ball and go home like we used to do as kids.
We'll visit Dr. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. If you're just tuning in, talking about the SWAC basketball tournament, talked about the football championship tournament. So one would think we're heading next to the baseball tournament. Now, Dr. McClellan, I've heard several rumors, whispers of rumors. Can you talk about, and the rumors I'm talking about is the SWAC baseball tournament. Will it stay in New Orleans, be for a few more years, or will we be talking about a change in venue and city for the SWAC baseball tournament?
Well, I'm not sure. Baseball, we're getting ready to go into it. A lot of people might not know, but we hired Roger Cato as a consultant to help us manage and run that tournament. Yeah. So he's going to help us manage and run the tournament. He's been working with the city officials in New Orleans to bring notoriety, sponsorships, go down there and make sure the facilities are in order instead of the SWAC just showing up. I consider, baseball as one of those sports that we need to have that additional hands on the ground, boots on the ground, to be able to give a fantastic tournament. Baseball is an exciting tournament, and I can tell you this personally. I love New Orleans. I love what New Orleans has brought. There has been some talk about some of the facility issues there. We're going to work to try to resolve all of those. Baseball has bounced around like everything else. I think we've put a lot of momentum into New Orleans. I think New Orleans has gained on that momentum that has been put into it. And we just have to sit down and try to figure out how we can resolve any of those issues. Baseball has bounced around the Southwest and Southeast of the United States. I think we played at every baseball stadium that could host a baseball tournament, as well as baseball, along with basketball and football. We're going to have to get somewhere today. But I can tell you the rumors that you're hearing are nothing but rumors. There has not been any formal discussion about moving baseball. I know some of the baseball coaches have had some issues with the facility. Some like New Orleans, some do not like New Orleans. The contract, from my understanding, for New Orleans is coming up, and I think that might be where the chatter is coming from. But we will be in New Orleans this year, and we will be working to find out how we're going to solidify it. So again, I probably have less information to share with you on baseball only because it hasn't been addressed, which should answer part of your question about the rumor mill. We just haven't got to baseball at this point.
Can I ask a scenario something like this, since maybe it's the venue that may be some part of the discussion? I know there's another facility in New Orleans that is about to go away from hosting semi-pro team. Will there be any, in your opinion, other venues to maybe look at in New Orleans?
In my opinion, Carlos, in my opinion, not to cut it off, we're going to look at any and all options, but I can tell you wherever we end up, they're going to be paying us. We're not going to be paying them. So,
well, I kind of figured that according to this conversation today. Yeah.
Right. So that pretty much puts it wide open. We're going to look at any and all options, but we're no longer going to pay to bring $2 and $3 million worth of economic impact to your city. And we have to pay you to come. That's just not how business is done, and that's not how we're going to operate out. We want a quality experience. We want a quality facility so we can treat our student athletes like every other student athlete is being treated, and we want our fans to be able to come out and have a quality experience.
Amen.
There are several venues that can produce that, and we're bringing money to your city, so you're going to have to treat us like you treat everybody else.
And in June, we'll know much more, correct?
As far as baseball, it might be a little longer than June. Because, again, we've really been concentrating to get football and basketball solidified. And then the contract for baseball will end, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back. I haven't seen the contract, so let me not even tell you when it will end. But it's coming up to a close, and we will evaluate baseball at that particular time.
Well, I think I can say we'll be confident to know that what we need to know and when we sure the commissioner, Dr. Charles McClellan, will let us know.
Absolutely. I have no secret, so the only thing you have to do is ask, Carlos. I'll let you know when I can.
I appreciate visiting with Dr. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Dr. Prince, you're the baseball guru. And since we're kind of still talking about baseball, your question that you wanted to ask the commissioner about the legislation that was just defeated as far as the NCAA baseball committee?
Sure. Thank you, Brother Carlos, and good morning, Dr. Charles. How you doing this morning, sir?
Good morning there, Mr. Prince. How's everything going on the sunny hills of Prairie View A&M University, located in Prairie View, Texas, 77433.
No, 77446, brother, 77446.
446. You got two area codes now, Mike.
Well, technically we still have one. It's 77446, and then for those who are not aware, that 77445 has been tagged to Hempstead for almost 100 years.
Well, I had the 3 wrong. I thought you had added that second area code.
No, not yet. Yeah. See, you some more breaking news, man. We might have a new zip code coming in that you.
There you go. There you go.
Here is my. You know how I am about baseball. I've been following the SWAC tournament for many, many moons, and former player.
Yes, sir.
My biggest, I guess, gripe had been that our current status of baseball is a double elimination format. But it's not truly a double elimination when we get to the championship game, and I know it's because of television rights. So, an alternative to tweak it, and this is maybe something you can take to the meeting, instead of having a double elimination, just make it a single elimination, and that time, whoever comes to the championship game, it can be that one game for television, which everybody is accommodated for, or you can simply go to 3 teams from each division, and you make it a double elimination, or just the East versus the West, and the top seed would host that championship game, have a Thursday, Friday night, all baseball banquet with your sports awards, this, that, and the other, and then that would be that incentive to motivate these players to get better, programs to get better, and get on the grind. First response to that.
Well, my first response is when it comes to that type of change, is going to have to be led from the membership. Again, no longer will the conference officers just make arbitrary decisions and say, this is what we're going to do. So that will have a lot of discussion. But let me tell you what Charles McClellan, commissioner, thinks personally. And I say that because, again, my personal thoughts may or may not have any bearing on the future of the tournament. When you go and you look at baseball tournaments across the nation, the fair majority of them are double elimination tournaments. I am a proponent of championships. And a true championship is bringing as many of them as you can, and you just battle it out, and the last one standing wins. I think that's what the fans like to see. And even as an athletics director, that's what I like to see as well. So the double elimination, in my opinion, baseball is such a tedious sport that you could be on today and off tomorrow and lose. That's what that double elimination concept is for. It gives you that opportunity to be able to rebound. But the way that the SWAC has their tournament to where, if you don't lose, you have the advantage in the championship game. And I think that's what that bracket is set up for, is if you lose, you have to have insurmountable odds. The team that won, you have a slight advantage. I think that piece could be looked at. We've done it in the past where we've looked at the double elimination and have that, because we used to have double elimination in baseball prior to, and we moved it to championship game. And we have a Saturday that's a if day. So having the day to play the game TV is not that big of a bearing on it. Playing the game on that Sunday doesn't really have anything to do with double elimination for the championship game. It's really just a matter of preference. But I think all in all, we have an outstanding baseball tournament. It's a highly competitive baseball tournament, and I'm always going to go for more teams than less, because our student athletes, especially in baseball, we get on a bus, we go to Kansas and play Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you have to go from Kansas back to campus, back to Alabama, back to Arkansas to play on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to class on Monday, back on a bus. The least we could do is give them a quality championship experience where everybody can come, or at least where we've settled 8 out of the 10 teams come and put on a quality championship. So it could be left up to debate. But in my humble opinion, I think we have a very good baseball tournament. You look at some of the major conferences, their tournament formats are the same. You look at, some of our mid-major conferences, their tournament format is the same. So something that can be debated. But again, as I stated earlier, that's something that's going to have to be brought up by the schools. We're not going to make that arbitrary change.
Right. But like I said, my point was, if I come from the loser's bracket and you're coming from the winner's bracket and we meet on championship Sunday,
right,
it's a winner take all.
Absolutely.
Technically, for a double elimination, I would have to beat you twice because you hadn't lost. And that's not the case.
That's true. That's true. But you would have played at least 2 more games than the winner had, which still gives that winner team the competitive advantage. Now, if the winner loses, I understand what you're saying. But it's set up to where, and you can look from a historical perspective, how many teams that came out of that loser's bracket since we've made that change have been able to go on and beat the winning team. And if you look in the last 6 or 7 years, I think the total is 0.
I might have to research on that, but
research it.
Yeah, I'll research it. And
because Texas Southern has won the last 4 out of 5, they were in the winners bracket. Alabama State won 1. They were in the winners bracket, and the 2 years prior to that, Jackson State won, and they were in the winners bracket. Well, that's 7 there.
Right, and I understand the theory and the formula, but it's like it's tomato, but that's just been my deal.
Well, I would say if it's not broke, don't fix it either.
Okay.
Well, it might go way back, Carlo.
Yeah.
We've been debating for 20, 25 years, right?
I understand because, I've had debates, I've had shows in the past on kind of what you're talking about. I remember the guy you mentioned earlier, Roger Cador. I remember me and him having discussions about having the East and the West division winner play a 2 out of 3, having 4 people participate. It has always been discussions on how to, make it better in a way, or to just leave it as B. It's evolved over the years from 6, to 8. Yeah, so it's a good discussion to have, is what I'm saying.
And it will always be a discussion, and it's healthy too. You have to have these discussions in order to get better. You cannot stay status quo. forth. So I agree with you. And, you know, Mike and I have had a lot of baseball discussion and a lot of basketball discussion over the years. And again, as you stated, you have to have these discussions to move forward. But I think our baseball tournament and our softball tournament really are two of the best tournaments. And Mike, to give you some fuel to your argument, softball is a true double elimination.
It really is.
You have to win twice in softball.
It really is.
But you have to win twice in softball, right?
And I thought it might have been because you can play 2 softball games in the time it would take to play 1 baseball game. I thought that was part.
Well, a lot of it comes down to pitching. A lot of the baseball decisions that you see, a lot of people don't necessarily make the equation to it, but it comes down to pitching. Softball, you can have one pitcher, and she can go through the whole tournament and come out of the losers bracket. In baseball, you know, you have to have the arms. And ultimately, a lot of the rules in the SWAC that have evolved has been based upon pitching. Because the more games you play, the less effective your pitching becomes. That's the reason why, if you recall, we used to have 4 games, and then we moved the 4 games to 3 games. And then we used to play on 2 days. Now we moved it to 3.
Right.
We have the run rule. A lot of the rules that we have is coming down to pitching. And if you come through that loser's bracket, I guarantee you, you know, your pitching is at a premium at that particular time. The winner typically pitches the person that won day 1. They typically start. Once you get past that, all of those on, by the time you get to that Sunday, you've thrown everything that you had, even if you're in the winner's bracket. So, again, a healthy discussion. But the tournament has been a well-played tournament. The coaches seem to be happy. The fan base overall seems to be happy. I think what we have continued to try to concentrate on over the last 6 months that we've been discussing baseball is how to improve the experience of the tournament, because I think the on-field play has really been stellar over the past several years.
No, you won't have an argument from me at all about the play. It's like you say, it's all about a healthy dialogue to move things forward. And my other, I guess, question or comment, you're in the commissioner's seat right now, coming from an athletic director's background. I think that baseball is that neutralizing sport that could bridge a gap between the quote-unquote have and have-nots. And now that you have removed yourself from the AD's perspective, and I know you're about encouraging and informing as a commissioner now, do you think there's wiggle room for institutions to invest more in baseball in order to have some of these more consistent mid-conference battles, so we won't be so surprised when we have what Southern did to LSU or how Texas Southern battled with Mississippi State in the near future?
Well, I think if you look over the last 15 years, Mike, you would see that there has been a tremendous investment in baseball. When I first came along, it was Southern, it was Jackson. Grambling would sprinkle in every now and then, and you know, every now and then, Candy at Texas Southern would sprinkle a championship. But it was really those 4 institutions. As you fast forward, I remember when I hired Rob at Prairie View, we played Alabama State. Alabama State didn't even expect to get into the tournament. They went home, had to call people back just to be able to go to the tournament, because I can't remember the circumstance, but they had, you know, gone home because their record, you know, wasn't reflective. Now Alabama State, one of the better facilities, one of the, you know, the better coaches, they've invested into their program. Prairie View's invested into their program. Texas Southern has raised their level on a consistent basis. Grambling has raised their level on a consistent basis. Arkansas at Pine Bluff has won the Western Division, not last year, but the years prior. So baseball is really on that trajectory to being one of the sports, and we can compete. The only difference between our baseball teams and the SEC baseball teams is that they have pitchers that are paying to go to school because baseball is 11.7 scholarship. So I'll pay my way to go to Texas A&M or LSU before I'll take a scholarship to go to Southern. And as soon as we can kind of get a couple of those, I mean, our 1 and 2 pitchers can go against anybody. Our 1 reliever can go against anybody. What we're missing is that 3rd, 4th, 5th pitcher and that 2nd, 3rd, 4th reliever. And my goal is to work with the schools to be able to help facilitate getting that extra piece. In my opinion, that's the only thing that's missing for us to be able to make a run in the regional and super regional. And more so than basketball and football, baseball is a sport that we can compete at a national level and actually be able to make a run and make a presence for us.
And that's why it is so important. And a lot of people have not really put the pieces together. When the Division I Council rejected that 3rd paid assistant, it was more than just a 3rd paid assistant, because they had all this stuff lumped in where they wanted to jump up from the 11.7 to the 22 scholarships so they can continue to keep the majority of the talent at their level.
Yeah, and again, not to debate the Division I Council, a lot of that from a decision-making process, Mike, didn't necessarily come from a competitive side, more so from an academic standpoint. So not to get too much into the debate, but it's not just a competitive issue when you start talking about the 3rd assistant and increased scholarships. A lot of it has to do with academic piece as well. So, but I don't necessarily disagree with it.
Okay. Well, I'm done, and thank you. We were very civil on this segment too.
Well, we're always civil, Mike.
Yes, sir. I know it.
You used to beat me up when I was in college.
Man, don't say that, brother. Don't say that. Don't say it, because somebody,
at least not on the air.
Yeah,
right?
Somebody might believe that.
Well, on that note, I definitely appreciate the time that Dr. McClellan has shared with us today. Literally, what I said earlier, still comments and questions. I'm just not going to be able to get to all of them. But what I can do is ask Dr. McClellan if it's possible that he could come back very shortly in a week or two, and we can kind of continue the conversation, because it's always good, it's always healthy, and I can't think of anybody else where you can get it straight from the source than the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. Any final statement, comments, Dr. McClellan?
No, just be on the lookout. We got a lot of good things coming up on the horizon. I want to reiterate to all of the SWAC people, I heard this when I came to the conference office, that the SWAC office is dying. Let me stop that rumor as well. We did walk into the office with a deficit. The deficit has been cleared. We're going to finish the year in the black. Which means that next year we're going to be able to start distributing money back to the schools as promised. We're going to put up money for football and championship, put money up to win the football and basketball championship. So the competitive teams now can look forward to distribution and a lump sum payment. When they win, your office is strong. We're going to continue to get stronger. We're building additional relationships with television partners, corporate partners. And you hadn't seen anything yet, just hold on. We're going to take this conference back to where it was, and that was one of the perennial conferences in the nation, not just from a television standpoint, not just from a competitive standpoint, but from a branding standpoint. I want to put this out as well. Summer 2020, we're going to host our 100-year celebration. SWAC will be 100 years. So we're going to bring all of the stars back. We talked to at least 7 of the NFL Hall of Fame that's going to come back. We're going to bring back everybody and anybody that participated in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. There's going to be a black tie, red carpet gala. We'll announce the date and time. The money that we generate is going to go back to the schools, but this is going to be a celebration to let everybody know what the SWAC is, what it was, and what it's all about. And it's going to be our coming out party. We're going to have it on television. We're going to bring in an A-list entertainer to host it. We're going to bring in a A-list entertainer for a concert at the end. It's going to be one of the most fantastic events that you've ever been to. You're going to be SWAC proud. That's going to be our coming out party. So be on the lookout for that. And we have many other things in store. And thanks for having me on your show, Carlos.
Well, appreciate it. And let's talk real soon if we can.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks a lot. Dr. Charles McClellan, the Commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Didn't get a chance to get to everybody's comments and questions, but I'm sure you understand when you have two guests like Coach Banks and Dr. Charles McClellan, you could literally have them on for 2 hours for one person. So I don't have 4 hours. You get it? Okay. Yeah. But some interesting tidbits came out of the talks, the discussions with both gentlemen. And I'll try to answer some of the questions and comments. When the show is over with, there's still a discussion to be had. Let's start with Dr. McClellan. Basically, what I got out of the discussion, one of the main things is the SWAC knows its worth. And so whichever city that a championship will be at, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. Football, he basically said in June, when they have their meetings, we'll find out whether it's going to be at a host school or will it be at a neutral site. But financially, will have a big impact on what that decision is going to be. Dr. Prince, did you kind of get the same feeling as far as these championships?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. It was, he said, hey, pay me. You got my money? Mm-hmm. He going to stew him. Hey, you got my money? If you don't, keep on keeping on. Yeah.
Same thing with basketball. He said the cities have reached out to the conference. And again, it'll depend on financially will dictate the move.
What I think, and you know, we all entitled to our opinions. I think that your basketball tournament should be at a designated place, and I think that your football and your baseball championship should be played on campus. That's just me.
Now, I understand. As I think about it, on campus is a great experience because all Alcorn State fans are still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if it had been at Mumford Stadium, maybe the fan part of me will still be talking about it. But since it was at the reservation, and some of the alums and fans are talking about round 2 in Lorman again. Now, there were some logistical problems for the media, but that's another topic.
Well, that's one of them deals that you learn from experience and you accustom and like the Final Four when it was in Houston, they had a place where the media was all the way on the back court, and it was rows and rows. So I mean, you just adjust and according to what you have and the space you have to work with, you can make that work. That's a minor adjustment as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm glad I know somebody. I'm glad I know some people because, you know, if you making that trip and you're not getting in there, you're gonna feel that's a little bit hot under the collar. But he talked about the basketball tournament, the football. The baseball was the most interesting. You know, there was rumors. We talked to Coach Carlos James, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I guess it was maybe his discussion of how he felt, and I think he kind of said it at the time. That's, you know, his opinion. He mentioned Memphis, but right now, the commissioner said it's all talk. It's all rumor.
Well, you know why that is, though, right? Because he just said they haven't even discussed that yet.
Right.
They haven't discussed baseball. The focus has been football and basketball, and deservedly so. But once again, you have to consider the baseball piece because you can, and it's been proven, make money from it. But you have to take the talks and the planning, into a little more detail. Like I said, I wasn't going to go back and forth, but we've had healthy discussions throughout the years, as he may mention. But it's almost like that side piece. I get to you when I get to you.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's the way I feel about it. I'm a baseball guy. There's no doubt about it.
Can you afford to take care of both? Anyway,
look, and I'm tired of being the 20.
But that's a valid point, and he committed to coming back and talking about when he has something to talk about as far as with that. Now, he personally said that he likes New Orleans, and I guess he understands. Some have talked about how expensive, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what? From the financial piece.
Yeah, what the money dictates.
And,
and now,
and it may move out of New Orleans.
Highly possible.
It may stay there. What I got out of it, his opinion, my opinion, which is the best business practice for the conference. That's where they will be. If it's Birmingham, if it's Atlanta, we shall see. And then he also said Roger Kadar. That almost just took me out of my chair. Roger Kadar hires a consultant for the Southwestern Athletic Baseball Tournament.
You know why?
So,
why?
And it will be in New Orleans. Well, he's Mr. Baseball.
Well,
his business persona. He's a business guy. And he can sell you a piece of cheese on the moon.
That's what I'm talking about. He has proven to be a steadfast fundraiser. And that's what's been part of the missing piece from baseball. Okay.
And, of course, his name sells.
Well, his name does still have some value to it. So just imagine. And a lot of people might not understand, well, how can you make an impact with baseball? All that outfield wall can be plastered with signage, even during the course of a tournament. And if you'll be amazed at what corporations and even local businesses will be willing to come off of to have their brand linked up with that SWAC championship baseball tournament or game. So there is some wiggle room.
Mm-hmm. Well, I take the philosophy of an animal, two animals that you know of. I won't use one because it's not the appropriate time, but an owl sits and observes, and it's quiet. That's the same way I'm going to be. I'm going to look and see what happens. When all the pieces come together, and then everything's put on the table, then we'll have a chance to go through it and dissect it and look at it, offer our opinions, have some debates, good debates, which is healthy, discussions about everything. I think the conference is moving in the right direction. And I don't know, Dr. McClellan seemed to be, at first, when we started talking with him, I'm just trying to do my job. Very tactful. He knows what he's doing. I think the conference is in good hands, is what I'm saying. And you're not going to agree with every decision.
That's human nature, though. That's human nature.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you've got to do his best for the conference, and he has to do what he feels is best. And I had a question I couldn't get to in a comment, but I wanted him to explain the process again of from the bottom to the top, how legislation moves through the conference. We'll do that at another time. Quickly, got about a minute and a half. SWAC baseball. And by the way, I'll apologize. We went long. No Charles Edmond, no SWAC baseball report, but he will be back. Hopefully next week. I have to talk to his agent to get him back on. But baseball still seems the same. Alabama State in the East at the top, but Jackson State 12 wins in a row. Southern University winning the West so far, have a nice, tough series with Texas Southern this weekend, and then they'll be battling for positions. But Southern, Alabama State, Jackson State, Grambling, and once again, you can't forget about TSU. I'm telling you, they're always in the back of my mind, always, baseball-wise. They really are. So, I guess that about wraps it up for this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Don't forget, you can go back and listen to the show in the archives. You got to do so if you missed some parts of it, or if you want to just listen to it again, then see if you get a different meaning what the guests have stated or said. For Michael Prince, all of our guests, and for those who listen in, appreciate you as always. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Peace and God bless.